Hi, everybody. Um, Thank you, Susie. Thank you, everyone, for that lovely welcome. My name is Anne B. I am in Ireland, and I am very privileged to speak today. A great, it's a greatly healing thing to do, to be given the opportunity to tell your story in a room full of people that are there with acceptance, kindness, recognition. And I am going to just to begin, I'd like to invite the higher power specifically into this room for my share today. Um because it's a little, you've had a wobbly few days, and I'll share about that in a moment. So God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the one I can, and the wisdom to know that one is me. Um, I would like to share today I thought I would do a bit of a thread to keep me in line. I'd like to share on step two, which is came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, or in Tony A's version, bring us clarity. And I suppose the first thing to say about that is that um, all of us, and I'm going to use I statements, but all of us who grew up in families with addiction, alcoholism, and dysfunction, it's not just a matter of restoring us to sanity. I didn't get it in the first place. We didn't get it in the first place. We didn't learn how to think clearly, how to have clear awareness of the world. The world's a very confusing place to us. It's a very confusing place to me. And these steps and this program and all of the various elements of the program can and will help us to live more serene lives where we become actors rather than reactors, and all of those other beautiful promises. So just I'm going to do a little teeny reading, just very briefly, out of ACA, the Red Book, on page 137, at the end of when it talks about step two. I'm just going to read a short bit. It has been said that insanity is repeating the same mistake and expecting a different result. That has been our experience. Change does not occur until the adult child does the step work needed to curb the tendency to reach outside ourselves for love and affirmation. It's my doggy. One of the keys to being restored to sanity involves surrendering our need to harm ourselves or to run from our feelings. We must also be honest about our actions and motives. We must name our behavior properly to avoid the delusional thinking that we are feeling fine, when in reality, we are heading for trouble. Such honesty or clarity of thought comes from seeking a higher power by attending ACA meetings. We stop reacting and become actors, choosing a nurturing role in our higher power's play rather than a nightmare role in a destructive or unloving relationship. When we settled down and listened, we began to realize that the power that brought us to ACA is still with us today. Where we once thought we found ACA by mistake, we begin to realize that a benevolent power has been guiding us all along. Discovering this power is one of the great miracles that many adult children have experienced in work in step two and the remaining steps. For some, the higher power is recognized simply as loving and nurturing. Higher power is patient as it seeks to help the adult child find wholeness and integration of a divided self. But that got a little bit wordy at the end for me. But step two is all about acknowledging, recognizing, and giving an awareness of my distorted thinking and my behaviors that do no longer serve me in this life, behaviors that I learned from the cradle and that helped me survive thus far, but get me in quite a lot of trouble along the way. So I grew up in a family where my mother was the alcoholic. But my mother, and I'm only learning the repercussions of this recently, is also a narcissist. I thought they were the same thing. So my background, just in relation to 12 steps, I joined ACA in June. My higher power brought me to ACA in June. Around the time I got a barring order for my latest destructive, this time alcoholic ex. They weren't all alcoholics. A lot of them were just, you know, laundry list two, perhaps. And certainly as I'm learning now and learning in ACA, adult children. Now I knew my ex was an adult child. I knew he didn't have a simple history. But I came to ACA confused and bewildered. And my other background in 12 steps actually is Al-Anon. So I joined Al-Anon 10 years ago, coming out of a different relationship with a different destructive ex. So I have a long pattern of destructive relationships, unsuccessful relationships, and very short-lived relationships. And that's where I first came to look for help for myself. I knew something was wrong with me, so I have the benefit, I suppose, of realizing when I came in the door, I knew I had the issues. So that was a little help because I wasn't going off trying to find out how to, you know, rescue other people or blame other people. I was aware that I was creating really bad dynamics in my romantic relationships. And so I did a bit of 12 steps back then, and then I didn't go. I moved out of Dublin, spoiled in Dublin with meetings everywhere. I moved out of Dublin, moved down the country, and I really only found, got back into that 12-step program and found ACA in June. So, well, I have a bit of background and I know a little bit about the program and practicing and steps. I do find myself in a very messy place in my life with a lot of challenges. And my biggest thing, and this program teaches us this, is gently, gently, and stop judging myself and beating myself up, because that didn't get me anywhere in the first place. So my dad was, you know, an enabler, a rescuer. I have inherited really, I learned everything I knew from my dad. We were brought up, there was 4 kids, and there was nobody name mentioned in the family, only Mammy. Help Mammy, Mammy's mood, Mammy this, Mammy that, Mammy needs help, Mammy needs help, Mammy's upset, Mammy's this, Mammy's that. That's the message I got very, very young. And in a pleasant way, you know, it wasn't aggressive. There wasn't violence. My dad was very pleasant, but by God, that was get up out of bed. And the other thing was, my dad's a workaholic. My dad's side of the family are the addiction is workaholism, and just keep doing so you don't have to feel. And that is, I was superhero child, the one that never had any problems, the one that never had any issues, and who was there to help everyone else. But particularly in my family, we learned Mammy was the one who had feelings and no one else was allowed to have feelings. Mammy was the one who had problems and no one else was allowed to have problems. And that's what we didn't think about it. We didn't think about it. I didn't come into the 12-step program wailing about a dysfunctional family. I came in going, what's wrong with me? So I was a very studious child, because in my house there was a farm and you had to help Mammy as well. So I learned along the way that the only way to get me time was to get out a book, because my family did encourage education. So I got good things, you know, I got good things out of my family. But it got a little bit extreme, and I became a solicitor, which is a lawyer for the outsiders. Not because I ever wanted to. My mother kind of wanted it. Went to college and my friends were doing it. I'm 47 years old. I was 46 when I came into ACA, and I am only learning now in this program that to try and put Anne first or think about what Anne needs and wants is a very big challenge for me because I don't know what that is, because I never thought about it. It was, oh, well, everyone else is going off to be a lawyer. And Ally McBeal was on the TV at the time. A lot of my girlfriends later blame Ally McBeal for making it all look glamorous. But let me tell you, there's not as much singing and glamorous outfits as there is just paperwork, workaholism. And unfortunately, when I was in my late 20s, I first went to a doctor because I was waking up in the middle of the night and I couldn't go back to sleep. It would have been a lovely time to get sent into a 12-step program. It would have been a lovely time to be told, maybe go see someone to talk about why you're anxious. Instead, the GP said, oh, you're a solicitor? Have some medication, you're all really stressed. And it wasn't that. That was not what I was worried about. So then I loved being a lawyer because you get to be right and tell people what to do and be a know-it-all and fix things and rescue people and all of those things that I'm now learning under my step 2 are those behaviors which can be really good behaviors. They can be really great to have those traits, but when they're taken to extreme, they harm me. And I find that little bit on step 2 in the book very good. It's a couple of pages, so I'm not going to read it all, but a lot of language I've learned in ACA has been news to me. I thought self-harm was cutting yourself. I'm learning in the program that all the destructive behaviors, all the running around, forgetting about me and neglecting me, never saying no, having no boundaries, never thinking of me, and never giving myself permission to do what I like, do what I want. And I really, really struggle. Like, if someone said, what do you want? I'd be like, but it's something I'm learning to ask myself, and what do you want? It always comes as a bit of a, what, me, who, what, and what? But I grew up thinking I don't matter. And I attracted people, and it wasn't just in my romantic relationships, as I've learned in recent years, particularly since ACA, but also around that time, a little earlier, I attracted not just romantic relationships, I attracted takers, people who, I'm a caretaker, I'm a rescuer, I self-abandon, and I desperately try to get scraps of attention and love of other people by, I'm learning, controlling them. But I didn't think I was a controller. I thought I was a people pleaser, an approval seeker. That too is control. I am trying to control how they feel towards me. And of course, growing up in a alcoholic home, I learned hypervigilance before. It's been there so long that I didn't know it was a thing, but it's a habit that is a behavior that's so ingrained in my brain, my wiring, and my blood system that I'm only becoming really aware of it, and challenging that behavior and trying to turn that behavior around is very, very hard. So I spend my life walking on eggshells that no one's asking me to walk on, and trying to anticipate what people might like me to say, might like me to do, and that does not leave much space in my head or in my body for what might I like to do. So then, of course, being superhero, super achiever, super Anne, I became a partner in my law firm at the age of 27, bought my own apartment. And that's when things started to go really wrong for me, because I like going to court and doing law things. When I became involved in the administration behind the scenes in my firm, oh my God, it was very dysfunctional. And I was rolling up my sleeves going, ha ha, perfect, chaos. I love chaos. I'll fix them. I'll set everyone right. Needless to say, that didn't go down terribly well with the rest of the partners in the law firm, and it wore me to a thread. At the same time, I was also in a destructive relationship, and around that time, I interviewed with the managing partner, a new person to work on our accounts, because I fought for us to get a full-time accountant. We hired somebody without checking their credentials, and she turned out to be a fraudster who'd already been in prison and stole a lot of our money. But I seemed to be the only one that noticed there was something funny going on, and I was going to everyone, look, this is strange, that's strange, the other thing's strange, blah, blah, blah. No one wanted to hear it. It was a recreation of my home family life with some very unwell people in the management structure, and now I was stuck in the middle of it. So I hated my job. I started to get very unwell. I was exhausted all the time. And I did a lot of yoga I did a lot of yoga, and I started working with Buddhists and meditating and studying Buddhism. And what happened was, because I ruin everything I do for pleasure, I became a yoga teacher, and I started teaching yoga in the evenings 2 nights a week after work. And that involved like trying to get all my work in order in the office to race out the door and race home and move a load of furniture. I had rented at this time a huge big a big old apartment, and I moved all the furniture out to the sitting room, into the bedroom, laid out yoga mats, lit candles, cleaned up my kitchen because I had a galley kitchen on the way to the bathroom so people could come in and feel peaceful. And then I got sicker and sicker and sicker. And I had a therapist, and he said, Anne, take some time off. And I went, I can't do that. I can't do that. People need me. And I had to go out of work eventually, and was diagnosed with depression. And I kept saying, I don't feel depressed. I don't feel depressed. It's burnout. Anyway, a couple of years later, ME disease or chronic fatigue. And I have not worked since. And that was about 8 or 9 years ago. I'm a very good example of what happens when you don't know how to mind yourself because you're putting everybody else first. And so unfortunately, I moved home back near the family home. I'm going to fast forward a little bit through that. And picked up a couple of alcoholic relationships along the way. And really got back stuck into my very dysfunctional family who lived a field away, and my siblings who were all very unwell, and no one has a program. And my siblings all decided that they found my illness too distressing. So they kind of became estranged from me. They decided my mother was awful. True. And they did want nothing to do with them. So I found myself very unwell, trapped in my house a lot. I wouldn't be able to leave the house. I'd be in bed. And the hardest part was the mysteriousness of it. It just comes on you. It's mingled with depression, but depression, you're supposed to make an effort, get up, get out, and meet people. But with chronic fatigue, you kind of need to rest. And yeah, so I knew that was very destructive, but I found it very hard to get myself out of it. And then I ended up in St. Patrick's Mental Hospital 2.5 years ago, where I was diagnosed with bipolar and put on heaps of medication, which we and my medical people later kind of said, well, you may or may not have been bipolar when you went in there. It was my choice to go in. You've shown no signs of it since, and a lot of debacles with medication. And then I got into this very destructive relationship. And I did kind of a dangerous thing. I knew my 12 steps. I recognized my new partner had some issues with drink, but I also knew his father had been an alcoholic, and his mother was what I call one of ours, which is the Al-Anon kind of doer, fixer, never sit down, I can fix everything type person. And I thought, I once again abandoned myself and decided I could help him. Even though I had all the 12 steps in my head and I had lingo and I had, look after yourself, put on your own oxygen mask first. Knowing it is one thing, but the draw, the magnet, the energy is so strong for me and for those of us in our ACA role, because we do take on different roles and we do attract the other type of person who'll help us fulfill our real a neediness for attention, a purpose. Because I now had no job, so I didn't have a career and I was going to save him. And then I ended up I had some kind of a panic attack there about a year and a half ago, I'd say it was, maybe 2 years ago, and got into a very, very dark place and found very, very bad things and ended up in mental hospital again. Mostly mental hospital is very hard to get into. I like mental hospital because then I get a break and I can go in and be looked after because I kind of need a doctor to write me a note to say, you're very mentally crazy right now, so it's okay to take a break. And I think mental hospital gives me permission to do that. So I am an extreme case. Um, so that's the bad part. The good part is how today, with the help of this program, I very, very, very difficult for me to do this. Learning to slow down, to put myself first, and to try to just say about mental hospital as well. I had the most wonderful experience in the mental hospital in Ennis because I met some other people who were going through a really tough time. And it's very hard to talk about it when you want to end your life. And we talked about it and it made us feel better. So the number one thing I would particularly say to any newcomers about how does this program work? Why does this program work? Well, in my experience, what I found is you are not alone. We have isolated our whole lives. I don't ask for help. I try to fix it all. It's very, very lonely. I'm not in touch with my feelings. I'm always, oh, that person's upset. So I'm learning that I'm quite there's a loneliness deep inside me, and I need to be around other people. And the only way I knew how to do that was being the court jester. I also had whatever that is, the mascot role in the family, being funny. I like attention. I like to be the entertainer in the room. And I because of that, I probably struggled a lot more when I was unwell and in bed and isolated because I really like to be around people. And because I was the fixer and rescuer, when I got sick, I got let down by a lot of my so-called family and so-called friends. They didn't step up, they didn't come visit, and it was very tough. But in the program today, I have a new family. The concepts are the tools of ACA. Like it's bewildering. And I understood about 12 steps when I came in here, but you've got your steps, you've got the reparenting, you've got laundry lists, and then there's other book studies studying all manner of books. And I've come across some very, very helpful stuff since I came in here, but it is bewildering. Where do I start? What do I do? And what I found is coming to the meetings, there is no point in getting all the literature and studying the literature and taking notes, as I call it, graduating ACA in 6 months. It's slowly, slowly. I need to hear the messages over. And I'm a bright spark, I'm a bright spark. But it takes time to unlearn 47 years of confused thinking. And as it says in the red book, like it's not restoring to sanity. There was never sanity in my life. It's finding clarity for the first time and identifying the things I do that are just not good for me and that I need to be good to me. I've had things stuck up on my wall for years, put myself first or, higher power me than others. That doesn't do it. We need more. And what has worked for me and has worked for, I'm still a bit of a mess, but I have hope. I trust this program and I trust the people that come into these rooms and tell me the program helped them and accept me in the mess that I'm in and go, aha, I do that too. Yeah, me. We did not get love and attention as babies, small children. We cannot get better alone. I cannot get better alone. I can do therapy for the rest of my life. The power of coming into this room and all of these wonderful Zooms all around the world is that people do not judge me. People accept me. People listen. And I hear other people sharing their struggles and their hope and experience. And all of the rest of all the should I do the reparenting, should I do the boundaries workbook or the this or the that or the inventory, which inventory should I do? All the time in the world, especially for those of us who are the overachieving, I want to ace this. I can use, my brain got me into this mess. My brain is not what's really going to get me out of this mess. So, just, I'm going to share what's been going on in the last little while for me. I've had a big victory in my life. And I am even nervous saying it because I still have such confusion and uncertainty and self-doubt when things happen in my life. When I say it, I feel like, oh, people are going to go, ooh, I'm not sure. So I have the crazy parents and my dad is he's been very physically challenged for years from pulling and dragging on the farm and not getting much care. And he had a stroke 2 months ago. And then he's had 5 falls since he had his stroke because he's me. So he doesn't accept help, and my mother is what she is. So when helpers and services came into the house, it was all about my mother and how hard she was having and how much she was struggling. And I must say, since that stroke happened, it has been incredibly challenging for me. It also happened around the time that I was talking in meetings about really taking distance away from my family. I bought a house here in I'm not saying that Temple. I can say that, can't I? It's only my anonymity. To get me out of the village from my parents, get me into town. I can walk around, I can meet people. It's great. And I was really working in this program at making not better boundaries, making boundaries and stepping away from my family. Guilt, my poor dad, how can I do it? And then huge resentments towards my 3 siblings who are estranged from all of the 3 of us. Ring my dad from time to time and pretend to express concern or express concern, let me not second guess what they feel they're doing. But I have a lot of bitterness because where's the help? And then my parents have a lot of grief and distress over not seeing their grandchildren, not being invited to the christenings of the last 3 grandchildren. And what's Anne been doing? I have been trying, what do we call it? Managing their emotions, trying to control their emotions, trying to compensate for the distress they're in because the other siblings don't answer the phone. So I answer the phone. Like, I'm in the program and I'm doing all the things I'm not supposed to do. But what I am doing is being gentle with myself and being kind to myself because this is program. It's very challenging with family members and my heart goes out to my dad. So I've been, my sponsor said, uh, hand it over to the higher power and pray for a miracle. And a lot of this stuff sounded very, yeah, whatever to me for quite some time. But I'll tell you when this program really comes into its own. When you are on your knees and when you are desperate, then you will finally go, okay, maybe I will take a chance. And instead of just, reciting things and saying slogans and talking, that I really actually said I was desperate enough and I did it. And I don't want to, I've needed some miracles, but I brought my dad to a cafe there a couple of days ago. He was he struggled. I couldn't get him back out. I called a friend, both of us couldn't get him back out. We called an ambulance. Edited version, 48 hours ago, I took a stand and I moved my dad's hospital bed out of my mother's house into my house. And it's been messy and difficult moving the services, trying to get help. It's Christmas time. But today I had the local priest in my house. At 11 o'clock today, I had the priest in my dad's village in my house with my dad, my mother, and me. And saying prayers. And I think he anointed us with oil. And that man had some higher power. I don't care what religion people are. I like rituals. I think they're good. And I had a moment here in my own kitchen this morning where I just started crying. I felt so touched and I felt something really special happen. Not because that religion is the right religion, but that man was sincere and earnest. And he, to me, was able to bring a sense of peace and consolation into the room. And then I've been battling to try and get my dad into some kind of care. I'm not going to go into all his medical details, but he needs a bit of care on a few things while we get set up and put supports in place. He really and I got him a wheelchair. I got him a commode. This is kind of magic at Christmas time because everyone's telling me it's not possible. And that's why my share today is a little, it's not what I thought would be my perfect, beautiful share about my wonderful 6-month progress in ACA and how now I've got it all sorted. But I do have some snippets. I believe in the program, the fellowship. That's something else I have to mention. I've been really, really slow I put my number up because I'd love to help people. That's what I do. Anne is not so good at picking up that phone to ask other people to have a chat, listen to her, and just be there for me. And I have done that a little bit in the last, I would say, 2 weeks. And I cannot tell you how helpful it is to just have somebody, and you can pick somebody, you see, you can say that person has a kind of a bit going on like I've got going on, and I like their attitude, and listen to your problems and they'll say, look after yourself, you know, be kind to yourself, mind yourself, take it easy, keep going to the meetings. If it comes out of the mouth of someone sincere, it's actually very beautiful. I'm a cynical person. I'm very battered by the world. I have encountered a lot of people who are not capable emotionally to give me anything. So I have gone around like a little, what's the little match girl, doing things for people, trying to get them to like me in the hope they might throw me a few scraps. And they do, they'll throw you a few scraps and it suits them. But by God, if you are in trouble and ask for help, you find out, you find out who can just listen. People in this program and across all of the 12-step fellowships have a gift. They will take your call, they will listen to you. And Can't fix your problem. But there is a belonging, there is a unity, there is that other people going through what you're going through. We can come into these rooms in happy times and share our joys. It's important to do that. That's why I shared about my dad's. I call it a victory. I sat down and watched a movie yesterday in my sitting room with the Christmas tree by the fire with my dad in his wheelchair, well fed, and we watched The Irishman, the mafia movie. Now, there were so many reasons I would never watch that by myself. I wouldn't watch that by myself because I don't like violence. I have ADHD and all the rest. Movies are hard for me to watch. But I watched it with my dad. He fell asleep for a bit of it. Then at 8 o'clock in the evening, I went. It's a 3 hour long movie. It's beginning to like business turning into a 3 hour share. I'll wind up in a second. It's a 3 hour movie. I said at 8 o'clock, I went to my 12-step meeting, my other 12-step meeting, and I let my dad watch the end of the movie. And when I was finished, came in and he was telling me all about what happened, and he was so bright and so happy. And I feel good. And I've been asking this, I've been doing my serenity prayer, trying to work out what to do, trying to hand it over. And right now, it feels good. My house is a mess. There's nothing in place for Christmas. There's decorations up, but my dad's here. So I don't have a whole lot more to say. What I want to just do is I made a little note, if I could possibly summarize what I was trying to say about finding, what is it? Restoring to sanity, or finding the sanity I never had, and becoming willing to involve the higher power in that. It's, for me, in the moment, in today, I will focus on my own behavior. If I think maybe my behavior could be improved just a small bit, even though I'm so marvelous and perfect, I ask the higher power, give me a little help with that, and invite him into it. And then this is in the red book, it's everywhere. This is the version I have written down here. It's a Chinese proverb. If we do not change our direction, we are likely to end up where we are headed. I've changed my direction. And this program, with the support of other people, I can't get better alone. I accept I'm a mess. That's okay. I'm okay. I'm happy. I'm good. I don't expect anymore to ever be back as a super achiever. I don't ever want to do that. I have a new normal, and I'm starting to accept that, slow down, and mostly go, what does Anne want? Because that's hard for me. What does Anne want? And I'll tell you, I want to watch movies with my dad. And yeah, look, thank you very much for giving me the time. It's a great honor to be listened to. And thank you for inviting me to speak. And I wish everybody a little bit of serenity, if at all possible, at Christmas, which can be a struggle for us. I'll leave it at that.